Here is the Arctic Circle. 10 contestants will embark on a survival challenge here. The last remaining contestant will win $500,000. Day 1 arrives. 10 contestants remain. The first contestant, Barry, 49, takes the stage. He surveys the surrounding area, noting many small groves. The helicopter's landing spot offers a clear view. He easily observes the terrain around him. Barry, a self-defense instructor, has undergone extensive formal training and wilderness survival skills. His physical condition is very strong. Traditionally, winners are often overweight, but Barry has not only ample fat, but also robust muscles. While observing the terrain, Barry needs to be careful of cliff crevices. Snow begins in the Arctic Circle as early as August, covering everything with a blanket of white. These cliffs mixed with trees can easily cause injuries. Reaching a flat area and starting a fire, Barry notices many squirrels in the surrounding trees. He decides to set up traps. Rope traps are the most common and easiest to arrange. When animals pass, they trigger the rope, which tightens when they move due to panic. After setting up, Barry spots a squirrel in a nearby treetop, an easy target for his bow and arrow. He shoots and secures his first protein source of the competition. The innards can also serve as bait for fishing, a great start. The focus shifts to contestant number 2, Nikki, 44. She is collecting berries. Her first challenge in the wilderness is handling the camera equipment, which weighs 65 pounds. She needs to carry it to a suitable location to build a shelter. Nikki, an outdoor guide and commercial fisherman, is well versed in primitive survival. She believes she doesn't need to define herself by her gender. Nikki and her friends have survived in the wild near Vancouver for a year and a half, legally hunting 2 black bears and a mountain lion using traps. Her ability to include such formidable animals in her hunting range is unquestionable. Encountering spicy strips near her home is just a routine for her. Now, surviving in the Arctic Circle, she considers the extreme weather to be the biggest challenge. Once it starts snowing, it will be hard to find food. She needs to collect as much food as possible early on. While gathering mushrooms, she hears a nearby rustle and comes face to face with a bobcat. She's thrilled, inadvertently licking her lips. Unfortunately, the Canadian bobcat is an endangered species. The good news is, the presence of bobcats indicates abundant food nearby. Contestant number 3, Nathan, 39 years old, attempted to shoot a squirrel in a tree with his bow and arrow. Not only did he miss the squirrel, but his arrow got stuck in a tree branch. To retrieve his equipment, he had to start chopping the tree, which quickly used up some of his energy. He decided not to build his shelter in this location. Nathan's job is a designer, but he also works as a farmer, biologist, and carpenter, making him a jack-of-all-trades. He joined the competition, aiming for the prize money. He doesn't own a farm, he rents one, and he is determined to buy his own by giving his all in this competition. Contestants were allowed only 10 items, and Nathan did not bring a fire starter, confident in his fire-making skills. However, after hours, he failed to start a fire, which seemed overly confident and could potentially lead to his elimination. This is the Arctic Circle. Without fire, he had to build a temporary shelter. At night, a moose wandered past his shelter, caught on camera, making the next day tense for Nathan. He needed to get a fire going to keep wild animals away. Fortunately, he eventually succeeded in starting a fire, providing some comfort. Nathan also made a fishing net, anchored with sticks. When he checked it in the afternoon, he found a catch, a rainbow trout, which can grow up to 90 kilo and 1.2 meters long. Nathan was the first contestant to gather such an amount of food. Contestant number 4, Tim, 55 years old, gained a significant amount of weight for the competition, now weighing 204 pounds. He knew that all technical skilled contestants had previously lost, while those with more fat had won. Tim's profession is a hunting instructor, and hunting is his skill. He boldly built his shelter directly on an animal trail, ready to shoot any passing animal. After setting up, he explored the area, hoping to find traces of prey. While walking near water, he slipped on moss and fell backward, dislocating his knee. The intense pain nearly made him faint. He urgently called the rescue team, who quickly arrived. Clearly, Tim lost his eligibility to continue in the competition. He had prepared extensively and even gained weight for the show, but now it was all in vain. His dislocated knee and fracture required immediate medical treatment. In the wilderness, It's not just hunger and loneliness that can eliminate you, but also such unforeseen accidents. Tim was thus eliminated from the competition. On day 6, 9 contestants remain. Contestant number 5, Downey, 38, has completed his shelter. Although simple, it provides protection from wind and rain. Today, he plans to use moss to fill the gaps in all the walls, which, despite being a large task, will greatly enhance insulation. Downey is a veteran and currently runs a wilderness survival school. He isn't short of money and has strong survival skills. His main reason for joining the show is that he was diagnosed with severe heart disease this year. Wanting to live without regrets, he ventured into the Arctic Circle to demonstrate his lifelong skills rather than waiting to die in a hospital. In the wilderness, food is both crucial and challenging to obtain. Today, Downey plans to make a throwing stick, a solid piece of wood strong enough to break a deer's leg. Later, with his hunting bow, he heads near the water, and by some bushes, he spots something unusual, a muskrat's den with the muskrat lingering at the entrance. He quickly shoots an arrow and successfully captures it. Muskrat meat is significantly more substantial than ordinary rats, and larger types can grow to the size of a bamboo rat. Tonight, he enjoys the roasted meat, which is rich in protein, and saves the organs as bait. However, the good times don't last. At night, he starts to suffer from stomach pain and fever, showing signs of food poisoning. Despite carefully inspecting the organs and thoroughly cooking the meat, he spends the night with severe symptoms. By the next morning, Downey is still nauseous, even with an empty stomach. Suffering from both fever and the effects of his heart condition, he feels close to giving up. The situation in the Arctic is unimaginable for an adult to endure such discomfort. On the second day, with no improvement, he has no choice but to call for rescue and needs to go to the hospital for a stomach wash. Regrettably, despite his survival skills and determination to leave no regrets, Downey is eliminated due to food poisoning. Contestant number 6, Jordan, 35, is the leanest among all participants. Upon arriving, he immediately set up many traps, not wanting to be eliminated due to a lack of food or poor physical condition. Jordan grew up on a farm and lived with Siberian reindeer herders for 5 years. The terrain and weather there are very similar to the current competition setting, part of which is actually in the Arctic Circle. His background will aid him in this contest. However, his starting point is disadvantageous, with only a small patch of forest in sight, and the rest scarred by a large fire, likely causing fewer land animals in his area. Contestant number 2, Nikki, has a better start, able to pick many berries daily. To balance her diet, she plans to make a mousetrap today. While crafting a V-shaped stick, she accidentally cuts her hand with a dagger. Despite the continuous bleeding, she disinfects the wound using medical alcohol and does not consider quitting the competition. She now avoids delicate tasks to prevent infection, but remains active, chopping down trees with one hand and staying optimistic about her injury. Contestant number 7, Ray, 43, found a beach spot favored by seagulls today, indicating richer fish presence. Curious about nature since his teens and having started bow hunting at 14, Ray has a unique understanding of nature. Declaring his aim to win upon joining, his friends and family describe him as a natural-born wild man. At the seagull spot, he tries fishing and soon catches a small lake trout, which can grow up to 1.2 meters. He welcomes any catch, big or small. Contestant number 8, Michelle, 31, is one of the female participants. She lacks strong hunting skills and has not eaten decent food since the competition began. Michelle, from rural Canada, has enjoyed setting traps and fishing since childhood. Today, while exploring the beach, she found a valuable item, a complete oil drum. This could be used as a small boat or a fishing cage. In the wilderness, it could be of great help. Ultimately, she decided to use the barrel as a trap to avoid the risk of falling into the water in the Arctic. She added several balancing stakes to the barrel and tied hooks and bait to them. The barrel was then pushed into the sea and could be pulled back periodically with a rope to check the catch. By day 9 of the competition, 8 contestants remain. Contestant number 6, Jordan, 35, made a significant gain this morning as his traps have been particularly successful, catching 4 rabbits just this morning. However, like many foreigners, he does not use the hot water method for removing fur and simply skins the rabbits, leaving only the bare muscles, taking away the precious fat and fur, which he feels is a waste. Contestant number 9, Wania, 42, has spent the first week building a shelter and stuffing every gap with branches to make it airtight. A veteran, Wania is also knowledgeable about various plants. Contestant number 3, Nathan, returned to the beach today to check his fishing nets, enjoying another day of abundant catch. The big fish, especially the red-spotted silver carp, were noticeably large underwater. Fortunately, he caught a female fish, which also provided a lot of fish roe. This is considered a delicacy, and Nathan couldn't resist consuming 2 big spoonfuls. The fish roe will also serve as ready-made fishing bait, although it's uncertain if fish would eat roe from their species. However, his habit of eating raw foods ultimately caused him trouble. Just last season, a contestant was eliminated due to food poisoning. After consuming the fish roe, Nathan suffered severe stomach pain, as if he had acute gastroenteritis. Unable to even handle the fish, he thought to rest in hopes the roe would digest on its own. Sadly, he couldn't bear it and had to step outside his shelter, vomiting as if he had acute gastroenteritis. Regrettably, there is no cure for regret. If given the chance, he would not choose to swallow the roe raw again. He suspects that the salmon had been dead too long in the net, causing the roe to harbor bacteria. Contestant 1, Barry today. Barry planned to go hunting and had his equipment fully prepared. However, shortly after stepping outside, he found discarded cans on the ground. This discovery quickly changed his plan. After collecting 6 cans, he returned to his shelter to make traps, forgetting his original intention of hunting. Contestant 10, Brady. As the last contestant to appear this season, Brady has completed his shelter. Today, he plans to collect berries on the top of the hill. Brady is a survival expert and a former Air Force veteran. His skills are comprehensive. A devoted husband, Brady's wife was diagnosed with severe rheumatoid arthritis right after they got married, spending most of her time in a wheelchair for the past 8 years. Brady joined the show clearly for the prize money to provide better medical care for his wife and ensure that their children do not worry about money in the future. While exploring the hills, Brady found a large pile of musk ox bones with some flesh still attached to the vertebrae. He decided not to waste this meat. Instead of eating it himself, he collected it to use as fishing bait. Deeper inside, he found the skull of the musk ox, a natural decorative item. Bringing it back to his shelter would certainly add a touch of class. Upon returning, the first thing he did was to try fishing with the collected meat. The stronger the smell of the rotten meat, the more the fish liked it. He successfully caught a large red-spotted silver carp, fortunately a male, otherwise he might have considered trying some fresh fish roe. Contestant 7. Ray today. Ray was wandering near his shelter and found pine trees, but had no bow and arrow. He returned to his shelter to make a trap, which is especially suited for capturing small rodents. He only needed to set it up under a tree and add bait. If prey touched the bait, it would immediately tighten. In the afternoon, Ray went out with his hunting bow to check the traps. Before he reached them, he spotted a squirrel, drew his bow, and successfully hunted it. After bringing the squirrel home, he ate it, hoping that no other squirrels had been caught in his traps. Otherwise, he might have a difficult night. Contestant 8, Michelle. Today, Michelle went to the coast to retrieve the oil drum traps she had set up. It was a tough task to pull them in, and unfortunately, they were empty. However, Michelle did not feel discouraged. Having grown up in the countryside, she has always enjoyed setting traps. Back at her shelter, her lasso trap did not disappoint her. It caught a ptarmigan. The amount of protein in such a large ptarmigan was immense, making it hard to imagine how one could finish it alone. On the 14th day of the competition, with 8 contestants remaining, Michelle decided to rebuild her fireplace for safety after a night of thinking. Her new fireplace was 3 times larger, which significantly reduced the risk of fire reaching the wooden stakes. Contestant 6, Jordan. This morning, Jordan found many moose tracks near his shelter. He is wary of such large animals. A moose can cause serious injuries if it attacks at night. To educate you on the size of a moose, Jordan planned to make an alarm system next to his shelter, using a string tied to discarded cans. If a moose approached his shelter at night again, the cans would make noise and alert him. It's important to emphasize that Jordan's reluctance to hunt moose at night stemmed from safety concerns, not a lack of desire. In the afternoon, he heard his alarm system and followed the sound, only to find the moose had already crossed the river. With only a bow and arrow, he did not dare to chase. Returning to camp, He planned to block the paths the moose often used, forcing it to approach near his position, thus increasing his hunting opportunities. While he was setting up, the same moose reappeared in the distance, a frustratingly elusive prey. Contestant 2, Nikki today. Nikki made some mouse traps, hoping to catch squirrels as well. In the afternoon, she went to check her traps and found a mouse, which had turned into little more than a morsel. There were many mice near her shelter, but they were all very small and hardly filling. She needed to hunt larger game. During her hunt today, she spotted a squirrel. Her first arrow missed, but the squirrel climbed a nearby tree, giving her a better shot. She drew her bow and the squirrel fell dead. While she was happily carrying the squirrel home, an accident occurred. The arrowhead was facing downward and it stabbed into her leg as she was returning to her shelter, causing a deep wound. Despite her strong will and never considering quitting the competition, from today, she would have to walk with a limp. Contestant 7, Ray. This morning, a squirrel appeared outside Ray's shelter, but he mishandled his pillow and let it escape, missing out on an easy catch. With snow starting to fall occasionally, the Arctic Circle is bracing for the cold challenges of winter. Today, Ray plans to insulate his shelter by covering it entirely with moss to block the cold winds seeping through the gaps in the branches. Arctic winter temperatures can drop to 60 degrees Celsius, with the coldest area in Siberia, Verkhoyansk, recording a chilling 70 degrees. It's hard to imagine the harsh cold weather contestants will face. To survive the winter, a warm shelter alone is not enough. Ray has not eaten for several days. As the temperatures drop, fish migrate to deeper waters. By day 19, 5 more days without food, he had no choice but to quit the competition. Ray's only envisioned methods of obtaining food were fishing and hunting, but with no food supply, his weakened body could barely walk without gasping for breath, leaving him no strength to hunt. To avoid dying of starvation in the wilderness, he reluctantly gave up, despite feeling ashamed. At the beginning of the contest, Ray was overly confident, not taking other contestants seriously, believing he was destined to win. However, his abilities did not match his bravado, leading to his elimination due to hunger. Contestant 9, Wanya today, while hunting. Wanya found many wild berries and collected some. Nearby, she also found naturally shed moose antlers, indicating that the area was rich in game. Sure enough, she spotted prey in a nearby tree, shot an arrow, and found only blood and feathers on the arrow when retrieving it, indicating the arrow had pierced through the animal. She could only search the vicinity, knowing the severely wounded animal couldn't have gone far. About 10 minutes later, Wanya found her prey, a ptarmigan. She was particularly satisfied with today's catch. Back at her shelter, she plucked the fat, rich ptarmigan, a much better meal compared to the usual mice and squirrels. The ptarmigan's skin contained important fats, crucial for survival in the wild, and its bones were few, with meat making up 70% of its body. Day 20 of the competition. 7 contestants remain. Contestant 6, Jordan today. Jordan shot an arrow at a moose that appeared and successfully hit it. He followed the blood trail left by the moose. Here's a fact. If the blood from a wounded animal has bubbles, it likely indicates a lung injury. After tracking for about 10 minutes, Jordan found the moose again, now too weak to continue moving. However, he cautiously waited instead of approaching immediately, as the dying thrash of a wild animal can be dangerous. Jordan waited for 3 hours without making any move as the moose lay bleeding, leading to it becoming unconscious. Suddenly, the moose noticed him, tried to get up to flee but collapsed again due to the severity of its injuries. The arrow had pierced its lung. Jordan secured the first large game of the season, becoming the first contestant to successfully hunt in this wilderness survival documentary series. The moose weighed between 850 to 900 kilograms, a size difficult to imagine being taken down with just one arrow. Now, Jordan faced a bigger challenge: how to quickly butcher the large animal. If processed too slowly, the meat could become infected with bacteria or even rot. Additionally, the scent could attract predators like mountain lions, wolves, and black bears, all of which have a keen sense of smell. After an all-night effort, Jordan managed to transport all the meat by early morning. Since his shelter was full, he had to hang the remaining meat in nearby trees and even built a platform to use as a storage area. In the wild, no meat-eating animal can resist the allure of moose meat. Even in the cold Arctic Circle, if not preserved, the meat would start to rot by the 6th day. Jordan now needs to process the meat further while guarding it against wild animals that might try to steal it. Contestant 10, Brady. His campsite is now covered in heavy snow. He has no stored food. The moose antlers hanging above the shelter were merely an old skeleton he found in the wilderness. Winter is rapidly approaching. He needs to try fishing more before the snow seals off the coastline. Luckily, today, fortune smiled on him. Shortly after dropping the bait, he caught a fish. A red-spotted frogfish weighing about 7.5 kilo. This fish is highly valued in the wild for its substantial fat content, crucial for wilderness survival. This single fish can satisfy Brady's dietary needs for a week. Contestant 3, Nikki, tough as nails, has almost fully recovered from a leg wound. She finds it humorous now. Coming to the wilderness, she accidentally stabbed her leg with a knife and then with an arrow. Today, while checking traps near her shelter, Nikki, still cautious because of her recent leg injury, set up several snares. Her resilience and methodical approach paid off when she successfully caught a rabbit. The successful trap made her feel her efforts were worthwhile and gave her a great sense of achievement. Contestant 8. A thin layer of snow outside her shelter made the scenery breathtakingly beautiful. Following rabbit tracks, she discovered one caught in her trap, which thrilled her immensely. Waking up to find a rabbit was a joyous moment. Michelle, who had previously raised rabbits, knows their habits well. After processing the rabbit, she crafted its fur into a long rope, which she plans to use as a scarf once it dries, a beautiful and luxurious accessory. Contestant 6, Jordan. It's been 3 days since Jordan bagged a moose. Every breakfast now starts with succulent venison skewers. Even without seasoning, they look incredibly appetizing. It's hard to imagine that the competition is only 23 days in. If the other contestants knew about Jordan's relatively comfortable life, it's uncertain how they would react. Jordan has smoked most of the meat, confident that as long as no predators such as black bears or mountain lions intervene, he can win this wilderness survival challenge. Day 27 of the competition, 7 contestants remain. Nikki, ever cheerful, maintains her signature smile despite half her shelter burning down. She remains optimistic, a trait that endears her to many. Even with such setbacks, Nikki doesn't plan to quit. She spent the day chopping wood and rebuilding her shelter, an effort that drained much of her energy and resilience. With all these adversities, she truly deserves to be ranked first, a stark contrast to previous contestants who might have quit under similar circumstances. Player 1, Barry, recently checked the traps near the shelter and found a wild rabbit. This rabbit will provide him with energy for 3 to 4 days, allowing him to do more without hunger. The rabbit's kidneys are rich in precious fats, crucial in the wild. At night, an uninvited guest, sounding like a black bear, visited his camp. Despite his hunger, Barry was not afraid and set traps the next morning to lure the bear back. He plans to shoot the bear directly. For Barry, after a month in the wild, any edible animal is fair game. Player 6, Jordan, has had the most stable food supply. He set up fishing nets at the start, and they never disappoint, bringing in large fish every few days. Today, he caught a white salmon weighing about 16 pounds and smoked the meat to preserve it, a vital technique without modern preservation methods. With plenty of food, Jordan feels confident of winning. Player 10, Brady, found an abandoned frying pan on the beach this morning, a prized item for cooking in the wild. However, on day 31, he realized he had missed his daughter's birthday. He knew he was in a competition, but forgetting his daughter's birthday made him feel terrible. Even though he has some stored food, time has become his enemy as loneliness and disorientation grow stronger, unresolved by mere sustenance. In the wild, with no smartphones or TV, the loneliness intensifies. Unable to fill his time, Brady struggles with his thoughts. One day passes, and Brady, feeling confused and disoriented, decides he needs to return to his family. Fearing a breakdown or depression, and having lost his initial motivation, Brady is eliminated on day 36, leaving 6 contestants. Player 6, Jordan, has been struggling with daily deer meat skewers, causing a toothache. He even made a tooth-grinding stick, noting that too much meat can cause problems. Today, Jordan also encountered some trouble. Wolf tracks appeared near his shelter, a sign of the cunning animal attracted by his moose meat. At night, the wolf returned, and Jordan heard it, confirming his suspicions. He went outside, making noise, but chose not to use his bow and arrow, fearing the wolf might retaliate if provoked. Wolves are strong, with 10 centimeters long claws, and confronting one at night is unwise. In the morning, Jordan checked the platform where he stored his moose meat and, as expected, found some stolen, including the fatty kidneys. This theft angered Jordan, as those were his last fat reserves. Though he wouldn't have reacted strongly if only some meat were taken, since 900 pounds of moose meat is too much to consume alone. The wolf had now made it onto his elimination list. Jordan set up many warning devices, similar to how he canned the moose. If the wolf comes near again and triggers the ropes, the cans will make noise. Tonight, Jordan planned to deal with the troublesome wolf. Not sleeping, he waited for his prey. Soon, the sound of cans alerted him, and he took up his bow and arrow to confront the enemy. After a successful arrow shot, Jordan quickly grabbed his axe for close combat. The intense fight sounds indicated that the wolf, already hit by the arrow, was no match for Jordan. The camera zoomed in on the scene, showing the aftermath, which was too graphic to display. By morning, Jordan had dealt with the wolf, separating its skin and preparing another meat storage platform to avoid future thefts. This new platform was built very high, with a ladder for easy access and peeled tree stumps as support pillars to reduce friction and deter climbing animals. Player 8, Michelle, had bad luck. With winter approaching and many animals desperate for food, she aimed to eat more before sleeping. Today, she found fox tracks when checking her traps. Both rabbits were gone, and one was eaten right at the trap, staining the ground with blood. Michelle's anger surged, and if she catches the fox, she is determined to skin it alive. Day 40. This morning, I began with a couple sips of ice-cold water. The surface had frozen over. Today, Barry plans to fish using the lure he made from an old can. The fishing method is straightforward, using a spinner, and surprisingly effective here in the wilderness. On his first cast, he already had a bite, but the fish was too big and escaped, which frustrated him. He hurried back to the shelter to make a net so he could gather more food while the fish were biting. Back at the fishing spot with his new net, it was hard for the fish to escape. He caught a red-spotted salmon weighing about 7 kilograms, enough for 3 to 4 days of energy. Player 2, Nikki, ate rabbit meat caught earlier and extracted marrow from the bones, a rich and fatty food. Outside the shelter today, Nikki spotted a squirrel. After it jumped from a tree, he caught it barehanded and stabbed it with an arrow. However, his careless handling led to the squirrel biting his index finger, causing profuse bleeding. This injury scared him more than previous self-inflicted ones, as he feared the squirrel might be rabid. Day 43. 6 contestants remain. Player 1, Barry, received a notice about a full medical checkup scheduled for the next day from the show organizers. This led him to wonder if he had already won, as past seasons announced the winner during such checkups, with family members present. Thinking about potentially seeing his wife, Barry lost his focus and missed 2 shots at a squirrel, mumbling about returning home tomorrow. Despite not catching any game, he remained hopeful. The night passed quickly, and the show crew arrived on time in the morning to check Barry's health indices and then left, deeply disappointing him. He fantasized about seeing his wife, but no one appeared, shattering his hopeful nature and causing his mental state to deteriorate. Despite performing well, he did not achieve the outcome he desired, having been alone in the wilderness for 44 days, a loneliness hard to describe with words. Player 2, Nikki, remained emotionally stable. She planned to sharpen her dagger today, but her saliva froze on it quickly. Concerned about the medical checkup potentially leading to her elimination due to health issues, she made sure to check her traps. Since her last squirrel bite incident, her luck has been good, with the traps yielding a rabbit every other day. Today, she caught another rabbit. Player 6, Jordan, has the most food among all contestants this season, but still struggles with weight loss. To date, he has lost 30 kilograms. Despite having plenty of lean moose and wolf meat, only fat can maintain weight in the wilderness. Unfortunately, the fat from the moose was consumed by wolves and wolverines. This proves that eating lean meat can indeed lead to weight loss. Jordan decided to take proactive steps because continuing to eat lean meat would lead to further weight loss. He targeted lake trout, a fish rich in fat, found in the Arctic with up to 34% fat content and can grow up to 1.2 meters. Even normal fish typically have a lot of fatty tissue in the belly. Jordan crafted a lure rod with impressive skill. The fish hook was a homemade iron piece, and his reeling technique simulated the movement of live prey. The fish bit the professionally made gear, but unfortunately, it escaped at the last moment. It was a big fish, and Jordan was very frustrated. He never thought having moose meat would still require him to worry about losing weight. He has been diligently eating moose meat 3 times a day, but his body continues to lose weight. He does not want to be disqualified for health reasons after investing so much effort, especially since he does not have a high baseline weight and cannot endure like other contestants. Jordan now desperately needs fat and fatty meat. On day 46, player 3, Nathan, styled his hair today, and it looked good. However, Nathan's luck has been very bad recently. His fishing net has not caught any fish for a week. Today's check at the seaside yielded nothing, suggesting the fish have moved to deeper waters due to colder weather. His stored food is almost gone, and without a catch, he might have to consider leaving the competition. Player 9, Vanya, decided to make an unprecedented rabbit fur scarf in the competition. To date, the rabbit fur she has collected is about the size of a basketball. The exact number of rabbits she has caught is unknown, but the fur feels luxurious. The scarf she made is both beautiful and practical, a remarkable feat of crafting a warm item in the wilderness. Player 8, Michelle, has not seen any rabbits or even squirrels near her shelter for over a week since her trap attracted a fox. The fox's visit has depleted her area of food. Today, while searching for food outside, Michelle was so weak that she fell and almost fell into the nearby seawater. She hurried back to her shelter. This week, she has had nothing substantial to eat besides water. The recent hardships have reminded her of her unhappy childhood. Her mother passed away from cancer when she was 7, and she never had a proper childhood, enduring bullying and ridicule. However, compared to these, going hungry now doesn't seem too bad. A more serious problem is that Michelle has not had a bowel movement for 14 days. She is aware that waste is accumulating in her colon because whenever she lies down, it presses against the last ligament in her buttocks. Michelle was injured as a child, and only this last ligament remains in her buttocks. She wants to hold on, but if she can't bear it, she might have to quit the competition. If this last ligament is severed by her feces, she will lose her ability to conceive for life. Michelle can no longer have children herself. It's fair to say she has pushed herself to the limit. Her determination is recognized by everyone, but 2 more days have passed, reaching day 48, and she still cannot have a bowel movement. Her stomach is increasingly bloated and painful. For her own health and future fertility, Michelle had to choose to leave the competition. Making this decision was very painful for her. Her initial purpose for coming here has not changed, but her body has reached its limit. Being unable to have a bowel movement for 16 consecutive days is a terrifying thing, unimaginable just hearing about it. She has given her all for the championship. Player 8, Michelle, is regretfully eliminated on day 48, leaving 5 contestants. Player 6, Jordan, made a special appearance today. He crafted all the rabbit fur he had collected into a coat, which is quite distinctive. Jordan's current challenge is to gather enough fat. Today, he also prepared to split the moose head he had previously collected and stew all the fatty parts. Although Jordan has a lot of meat, it's not about being stingy. His baseline weight is too low. Even eating meat at every meal, his weight continues to drop by 1 pound daily. To stabilize his weight, he must pursue fat. If he is eliminated due to health reasons after hunting moose and wolves, he will never forgive himself. As long as he maintains his weight, he can compete to the end. On the second day, Jordan returned to the meat storage platform. He was surprised to find teeth marks there. It was the work of wolves again. Wolves have curved claws that help them climb tree stumps without bark. Jordan, once more irritated by the wolves, had previously eaten a wolverine that had annoyed him. First, he scraped off all the bark and set up snare traps on every stump. He also wrapped ropes around the 4 load-bearing pillars twice. If a wolf touches it again, the cans tied up will make noise, alerting Jordan, who will then come to hunt down the thief. Player 2, Nikki, is collecting dry grass today due to the increasingly cold weather. It will be used for insulation in her shoes and as bedding. However, Nikki's ultimate goal is not just insulation. She has collected a lot of dry grass to make a doll using the fur of a rabbit she had eaten, which is well preserved. To have someone to talk to, this straw-filled rabbit will become her pet. Player 9, Vanya, dismantled her ground bedding this morning to make a standard bed. The cold weather made sleeping on the ground too chilly. When she went out to check her traps today, a white rabbit passed by her, even pausing nearby without much fear. However, due to Vanya's poor archery skills, she couldn't hit the target despite the close distance and had to rely on her traps. Fortunately, there are many rabbits in her area, and she managed to trap a snow hare. The rabbits here are all snow hares, which naturally turn white in winter to camouflage against predators. As Vanya continued after retrieving one rabbit, she also caught another snow hare with another lasso trap. She was lucky today, catching 2 rabbits. If her archery had been better, she could have had 3. On day 51, player 1, Barry, collected a lot of caribou moss today. He will boil the moss 4 times and then eat it. It's hard to imagine that he used to wipe his bottom with it when he first arrived on the island, and now he has resorted to eating it. Caribou moss is rich in 94% carbohydrates, something city dwellers might enjoy since they often seek out carbohydrates. This is the most natural form, but the only regret is that it is tasteless. Today, the production team went to each contestant for a medical checkup. The first to be checked was Nikki. Nikki's weight has decreased by 25% since the competition started. The team informed her that her baseline weight was already low, and she no longer has extra fat to burn in the wild. Due to health reasons, the team needed Nikki to exit the competition, which caused her great dissatisfaction. She felt that the only difference was her reduced weight, but the doctor informed her that continuing in the wild with nutritional deficits could lead to permanent organ damage. Her body has no energy reserves left. Each additional day causes permanent harm. The production team can forcibly eliminate contestants with blood pressure, heart rate, or BMI below average. Nikki had no choice. She felt helpless and resigned, failing to win the championship as expected due to medical elimination. Despite lasting 52 days, she knew she could do more. But the production team's decision was final, leaving her with regret. It's sad to see Nikki's struggles. She endured much, including cuts, arrow injuries, a shelter fire, and squirrel bites. Despite her efforts, she didn't achieve a good result. Player 6, Jordan, thought he had faced harsh weather, but underestimated the Arctic. The competition site and fishing spots have frozen solid, requiring greater risk for fishing. Player 9, Vanya, finds her usual freshwater source frozen, demanding significant effort to break the ice daily. Her strategy to face the cold is setting more traps to increase her chances of catching game, despite knowing that extreme weather limits animal movement. Recently, due to scarce game, she has started consuming rabbit intestines, originally intended as fishing bait. Player 3, Nathan, has retrieved his fishing nets as the sea has completely frozen, eliminating any potential catch. Having relied on net fishing, the loss of this food source frightens him, as hunger will soon affect his body. Player 1, Barry, finds even his shelter icing up despite recent fires, with temperatures around -20°C. This extreme climate poses a great challenge. Jordan's beard has frozen, and needing fat, he risks fishing by letting nets drift under the ice, hoping to catch fish. He chose parachute cord to make fishing nets. To set the nets on the ice, Jordan made a pair of skis. With all gear ready, only the final practice remained. He deliberately tied the skis with ropes to increase the contact area, reducing the risk of breaking the ice. Arriving at a deep water spot, Jordan broke a large hole with an axe. After checking the length of the net, he broke another hole ahead, allowing him to lay the net with a stick so it could unfold underwater. To prevent the holes from refreezing, Jordan collected a lot of snow. The snow, being cold but airy, greatly reduced heat transfer, effectively insulating the ice holes from refreezing. After several days of effort, Jordan hoped for good luck and a sense of achievement if he caught something. 2 days later, Jordan returned to the sea to check his nets and was fortunate to find a lake trout. By day 69, Nia's trap started to work, catching a squirrel, and she found another nearby. The widespread trap setup proved effective. While checking her traps, she found a third squirrel, delighting her. She wondered if it was divine intervention since she had been eating intestines. Today's catch meant she could survive longer. Today marks the 4th comprehensive medical examination of the season. Due to the frozen lake, the production team could only arrive by helicopter. Barry was to be examined first. Shockingly, Barry had lost 80 pounds so far, startling the staff. It seemed he had little food intake since the sea froze, leading the production team to inform Barry that he must leave the competition due to health reasons. Barry has lost his mind. His mental state is breaking down. After enduring for 2.5 months, he is being eliminated due to his weight loss. He feels that all his efforts were not worth it, and that this is unfair. He wants to continue competing, but the production team clearly explained that once the body stops burning fat, it starts consuming muscle, heart, and kidneys. Damage to these organs can be permanent and often isn't detected until it's too late. On day 70, Barry was sadly eliminated, leaving 3 competitors. Contestant number 6, Jordan, had a small visitor at his shelter, a weasel. He had seen it many times, often taking away leftover bones and moose meat. Today, he found his meat storage platform in disarray. He forgot to remove the ladder, giving wolves an opportunity. This basic mistake led to wolves raiding all his fat stores, including the fat from recently caught fish. This severe oversight was a devastating blow to Jordan. Contestant number 9, Vanya, discovered fish under the ice where she stood in deep water. She tried to make an ice hole to fish, but lacked the strength to do so effectively. From afternoon until evening, Vanya could not open the ice hole. It was heartbreaking to see food so close yet out of reach due to her weakness. By day 72, contestant number 3, Nathan, had lost so much weight that his thermal underwear would no longer stay up without a belt tightened with 6 new holes. He has lost 26% of his body weight since the start of the competition. Nathan's night turned disastrous when the flames he used for warmth spread to the roof. By the time he noticed, the fire was beyond a small flicker. Too weak to extinguish it, he could only watch as his shelter was consumed by fire. The intense blaze destroyed not only his roof, but also his hopes in the competition. Nathan had no choice but to call for rescue. His shelter was completely destroyed. If not for the crew's timely arrival, he might have frozen to death waiting for the flames to die down. With just a temporary shelter by the fire, he waited until rescue arrived at 4:51 a.m. By then, the fire was small, and survival was his only concern, not winning. The rescue team arrived just as dawn broke, providing a dignified end to his shelter's existence, protecting its owner until the end. Nathan left the competition on day 73 with regrets. The helicopter returned not for a routine check, but because contestant Vanya, number 9, chose to quit. She admitted her body had reached its limits. Even getting up in the morning was a struggle. She knew what quitting meant after over 70 days of effort, but her body was completely depleted. Staying in the competition could mean never waking up again. Moreover, it was her birthday, and her final rational decision was to prioritize her safety, the best gift she could give herself. Returning to a modern life with a hug from her family, a delicious dinner, and a warm bed were the birthday gifts she chose for herself. Living comfortably in the present was her priority. Her departure declared contestant number 6, Jordan, the season's champion. By day 77, the avid hunter of the season, Jordan, had bagged a moose and even a wolf. His fishing net also brought in a very large fish today. It's clear that Jordan was handling this challenge with ease, facing no significant stress. Since hunting the moose, his only goal was to maintain his weight by consuming fat. While preparing the delicious fish in his shelter, the crew arrived nearby. Jordan thought it was just a routine checkup and hurriedly ate more to increase his weight before the weigh-in. During the interview, Jordan's wife appeared on camera. Even as he boasted about the abundance of meat he had and his ability to endure any challenge to the end, he turned around to find his wife there. They embraced, overwhelmed with joy. It was at this moment that Jordan realized he was the last contestant standing. He proudly shared his achievements with his wife, boasting about hunting a moose and a wolf, which helped him survive until the end. Congratulations to